Hello, welcome to today's live. Today I wanted to talk about the heart center within human design. It's also known as the ego center. It's the center for willpower, material things, self-worth, and around 65% of the population have this either open or undefined. So if you have this center open or undefined, then I know that this will be really valuable to you. So remembering that within human design, if we have an open or undefined center, it means that we don't have a consistent way of processing the energy within that center. So if your heart center is open or undefined, it means that you don't have a consistent way of processing willpower. You don't have a consistent way of processing self-esteem. And it can seem like a little bit unsettling. If you're not aware of this, it can seem like a little bit, well, yeah, I guess that's the right word, really, unsettling. So, one day or 1 minute or 1 hour, or sometimes you're feeling like you've got loads of willpower and you can see things through and you can keep your promises, and then the next minute it's gone. 1 minute you feel like you've got real high self-esteem and self-value, and then the next minute you don't feel like that. And that's perfectly normal. So remember, within human design, there's no fixing, there's no right or wrong, there's no need to change ourselves. That's exactly who we are. So, but it's about like working with those energies and really understanding that it doesn't make you less of a person if you don't have consistent willpower. It doesn't make you less of a person if you're not competitive all the time. It doesn't make you less of a person if you can't keep your promises all the time. And those are just some of the things that, for those of us with an open or undefined heart center, just, have to live with and deal with every day. But actually it gives us superpowers, because with all of the open centers and the undefined centers, it means that we're very, very intuitive around that. So we're very intuitive around ego and willpower and self-worth and self-esteem and value. So we can actually feel it within others. So this is really interesting. And as I'm going through this, I'm going to say we, because I also have an undefined heart center. And I find it fascinating, right? Because I'd say about 90% of my clients also have undefined heart centers. Now, as I said before, about 65% of the population have undefined or open heart centers. So it kind of makes sense that maybe a higher percentage of my clients would have this, but almost all of my clients have an undefined center. And I think, how I can then bring value to their lives and their business is because of my intuition. I can kind of feel into that, and I can guide them through. So, if they are undervaluing themselves and maybe not charging enough for their services, or feeling that they're not good enough, or comparing themselves to others and beating themselves up because of that, I can be very intuitive around that, and I can guide them through a process because I've been through that process myself. So let me just... dog is white. Come here, Roots. Just bear with me 1 minute. I'm just going to get my dog. Rudy, come here. Come on. Right. The dog is on camera. This is Rudy, for those of you who've never watched my lives before. I'm just going to put him on my lap, and he should settle down. Okay, so I've touched on some of the things there that are very common if you have an open or undefined heart center, but I just wanted to kind of go through it quickly, just so that you're aware of what it's like to have an open and undefined heart center. And then I wanted to share something with you that's really helped me, really helped me sort of like elevate my own self-esteem and self-worth. And, you know, something that I've shared with my clients that also helps them elevate their self-esteem and self-worth. So I've already touched on it massively. If you have an open or undefined heart center, you will find that you often have feelings of low self-esteem and low self-worth. It doesn't always feel like that because you're bringing in the energy of others and you're amplifying it. Remember that with your open and undefined centers. So if you are hanging out with someone who has got a defined heart center, then you will be amplifying that energy from them. So if you are around those people, you will have very high self-esteem and very high self-worth. But as soon as you move away from them, you're no longer amplifying their energy. So really, like, the baseline is that you won't feel that. I'd love to know if you resonate with this, but I often find that people with open and undefined heart centers also really feel that they have to be in control. I have to control the situation because if I control the situation, then I feel worthy. If I've got no control over the situation, then I no longer feel worthy. So, you know, if you like, you have an open or undefined heart center and you can sometimes be a bit of a control freak, then that's why. Now, there's nothing wrong with feeling like that, but I think it's really understanding if it's appropriate or applicable to the situation, and also if it best serves you within your business. Because you might find that it's a little bit more difficult for you to surrender to the process, to kind of trust in the universe, to get into your flow if you're holding on to it tightly, right? So sometimes, very often actually, that can be in detriment to your business and in detriment to all the things that you're manifesting in your life at the moment. It can be a real block. And also, if you have an open or undefined heart center, you're not designed to be competitive. You're not designed to prove yourself. And this can often be a little bit like a bitter pill to swallow very often, especially if you've invested a lot of money in training courses and coaches and coaching communities that actually teach you to be competitive. And they might talk about, oh, there's no competition and we're all here to support each other. But sorry, at the end of the day, there's a lot of competition going on there. It's like, you know, it's almost like you're like encouraged to compete against one another and go out there and initiate and to get things done and like to have integrity and all of that. We're not designed to do that if we have an open heart center or an undefined heart center. In fact, we find it very difficult to keep our promises. And I constantly ask myself, when I was first learning about my undefined heart center, how on earth can I keep integrity if I'm not able to keep my promises, right? Because that's something that's like, it's one of my values. I have integrity. So how on earth am I going to be able to do that? Well, you will find a workaround for that. So for example, one of the workarounds for me is that I don't commit too far in advance. So, you know, if somebody asks me to do something at the weekend, like, and it's like 2 weeks away, I am just like, you know what? Let me think about it and I'll get back to you nearer the time. And it's just something that I need to do because I still want to be in integrity. I don't want to break my promises, but equally, I need to honor the fact that I'm not very good at keeping promises. Now, of course, if I promise to show up at a certain time for a client, right, of course I'm going to show up. But, you know, like other stuff, I'm not quite good at that. And I don't like being flaky and I don't like letting people down. So it's just really understanding that about myself and not beating myself up about that. That's fine. It's who I am. Okay, so how am I going to design not only my life, but also my business around that? Like, how do I design my business around my open or undefined heart center? And the same for you. How are you going to design your business around your open or your undefined heart center? So let's talk about the last bit here, which is the feelings of low self-esteem and self-worth, which I see again and again and again with those people that I work with and I talk to and I meet who have open or undefined heart centers. And this can really hold us back within our business. It can hold us back from going out there and really shining our light bright, being visible. If you're not feeling worthy, if you don't value yourself, it's very difficult sometimes to show up and be visible. Now, I'm a human design visibility coach. That's what I do. That's what I teach my clients. I help them to be more visible. So how do I work with my clients to have open or undefined heart centers? How do I help them be more visible? Well, a lot of that work involves them doing the inner work around their self-esteem and value, because it's about how are they going to be able to validate themselves instead of looking outside for external validation. How are they going to be able to, when they're not feeling like they want to be visible, how are they going to be able to honor that? If they are feeling unworthy, how are they going to be able to overcome that, especially when they're working with clients and they're talking about money? And one of the things that is very, very common for open and undefined heart centers is that we won't charge enough for our services. Well, that's a huge thing to overcome, right? Because you're running a business. You're not running a charity. You're running a business. You want to be able to make money. And it's really important to have that exchange of energy. If you're going to work with a client, it's important that they pay you for your services at a level where they feel like they're making an investment and you feel like you're being valued for your work. Now, obviously, everybody's interpretation of that is very different. Whatever your interpretation is of that, when you are being paid by a client, does it feed into your worthiness or does it feed into your unworthiness? So one of the strategies, techniques that I teach my client, that I do myself as well, because I'm a line 6 in human design, so it's very important for me to lead by example and walk the talk. And I actually did it the other day, is that I wrote down a list of all my accomplishments. So imagine that you are writing a CV, and on that CV you write all your work experience, the qualifications that you have, but you're taking it to another level, because what you're doing is you're going right back to your childhood. Okay, so what are the things that have made you really proud to be you? So the experiences that you've had, the jobs that you've had, the situations that you've been in, the times that maybe people have approached you for help or advice and then they've given you feedback off the top of that. So praise. I was doing this with a client the other day, and she'd forgotten that when she was younger, she was a dancer, and she was getting these awards for being a dancer, and all of those, even though she was 7 or 8, it's part of her accomplishments, it's part of her achievements. Now, when we can really tap into that, so the exercise is that you write a list of everything down there, and then you can look at it and you can give yourself a pat on the back and be like, fuck me, I'm amazing, right? So you're looking at that. So instead of feeling unworthy, low self-esteem, nobody will want to work with me, nobody will want to pay the prices that I truly want to be able to, go out there and advertise, you're actually looking at that and you're like, God, like I've done a lot and I've got a lot of experience and I've got these qualifications and, I have done these jobs and I've helped these people. Like it really, really helps you to be able to just tap into that ego and recognize within yourself that actually you are worthy and you've got nothing to prove. This isn't about proving anything to yourself or others. It's about really accepting who you are with all your experiences. We carry our accomplishments within our aura. So if you can really tap into that and really feel good about it as you go out and about in your business, as you walk into rooms, as you go onto Zoom calls, as you work with clients, as you show up on Facebook Lives, you're going to be carrying that in your aura. The confidence is going to come out loud and clear. You don't even need to say anything. It's not like, you're going to be on a Facebook or an Instagram Live, like listing off all your accomplishments. Unless you want to, I wouldn't recommend it. But what you're going to be doing is like, you're going to be carrying that within your aura. You're going to be like really proud of your achievements and your accomplishments, and energetically people will be receiving that from you. So this is a really, really powerful exercise. So go away, do that. I'd really love to know how you're doing with it and how it makes you feel. Send me an email, hello@abigailrebecca.com. And any other questions you have about your open or your undefined heart center, then just get in touch, because I'd really love to be able to help you explore even more about your human design. Okay, have a great day and I'll see you soon.